Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Altcoin Buzz Trading. Today we're talking about Bitcoin and what happens when we hit resistance in a market like this. All right, let's get right to it. BTC and actually the whole market has really had a very eventful weekend. That's generally not the case. Weekends are typically slower, but right now we are up. Based on over the weekend, we're going to go through a few coins today. BTC over our most recent alert at 30,376. Added that over the weekend as we put in this horizontal level here. We are starting to rally through it a little bit, but one thing to keep in mind as you're looking at this side of the chart is don't forget this rest of the chart. There's more chart over here. So let's look at that one. What we have up here is actually a very large head and shoulders pattern in BTC. There's a shoulder, there's a higher high called a head. Now we're forming a right shoulder in BTC. Now, what does this imply? Well, the head and shoulders is actually a bearish pattern. It implies that the market moves lower. And you can see this large rectangle range that I have here. The head and shoulders pattern, you actually can derive a breakdown point from it where the market's going to break down. So whenever you solidify a high here, which we haven't fully done yet, but we could be starting to do that, if this starts to stall and roll over, then we're going to be headed towards this line here at 25,000. And you can actually make a trade out of this. What you can do and derive a target too, you can take from the high all the way down to the neckline, a single straight line, move that line as such, and you derive a target. Okay, so our target, if we move to the downside, is 19,461. Now let me explain while I'm telling you this. I'm not telling you this to scare you and saying we are going down to that level. What I'm telling you is that if we can't break up, that's definitely in the cards. And if you want to short this, you're looking for a good resistance up in this area to short it and to do that. So let's walk you through that. Okay, let's go back to the prior high in BTC, which is this kind of choppy area up here. This is what's so dangerous about these types of environments is you have a pretty broad range here that's right around 7%. So not too bad, but it's a pretty broad range. The best way to handle these situations is once you've identified that we've failed to gone up, one or two, maybe even three times, you can start to think about shorting or layering into short positions. So take this environment, you spike up here, you move up here, you have a couple attempts higher, and then you move higher again. And this is really when you start to think about shorting, because a failed attempt to move higher here, you've already had a couple attempts. This should have been a good attempt. If there was buying pressure, it should have moved in that direction. Okay, so you can start layering into shorts there. You don't go into your full position. You maybe take a quarter position, maybe a half position, depending on your strategy and risk management profile. Now, as you continue on, we do try to go higher a couple more times, fail to do it, and we finally break out over here. We move up just not even 2%, and then we start to falter. This is when you can start to layer into shorts. Right there, when we start to falter into highs, okay? Now, if you notice, this is about the same level where you kind of started entering your shorts to begin with. But this is tricky, and this is the environment that we find ourselves in today. I don't want to gloss over on you guys and tell you that everything, that we're going to rally higher in perpetuity. Well, that is a possibility. It is not necessarily a probability at this point. And it's because we have many coins that are moving into highs across the board, more than we have had in recent history, okay? So that is a potential on BTC, but how do we get out of this? How do we move this into an uptrend? Well, I first want to say this. You and I don't do anything. We are market observers. We do what the market tells us to do. So we can watch out for a couple of things. The same consolidation that we just talked about can also break you out. So you start to move above this trend line up here, which we did start to do in the moment right there. Pretty good volume signature. If you buy that, that's not even necessarily a horrible trade, okay? But once it starts to fail, and that same line is your failure point, once that breakout starts to fail, that's when you start to think, wow, the market isn't ready. The market's going to roll over. I don't want you thinking I've made a mistake, because you didn't necessarily make a mistake. Part of trading is making continual mistakes all the time, and then still being able to turn it around and make something happen, whether that be getting out of the trade altogether or reversing it into some kind of a short. So when you're trying to break resistance and you fail to break resistance, shorting is something you can do. So let's look at a couple more coins. The main one though is I want to show you is Link. So Chainlink here has a very large resistance area, and this is one of the reasons to be bullish in this environment. Chainlink broke this resistance over the weekend. It came in very strong. Now these are lines from my other show I've got. So we had an alert at 7471 and 8279, and they blew straight through those. This is Saturday and that's Sunday. This is us today in Monday. So keep in mind this all happened over the weekend, which is pretty unique, right? We blew through that resistance. So there is bullishness in this market. It's not all bullish, it's not all bearish, but we are starting to see signs of a potential bullish market reversal, and Chainlink is a good indicator of that. Also, Solana getting up to pretty recent resistance points. Not quite all through the weekend. We talked about this coin last week, but a great weekend. A great weekend, and Solana is what I call a leader. A leader is a token that moves ahead of everybody else, that moves more consistently, that has larger percentage gains, and good volume in it as well. And Solana fits all of those criteria. So we will be looking for Solana past the 3161 to maybe really turn this market around. Chainlink isn't quite a leader, Solana is, and so you can look for Solana to basically lead the way through its resistance line if we're going to do it. If we move into the 2-hour time frame with Solana, you can see we're getting up to that resistance, and so far we're not able to get through it. Yesterday, or I should say Saturday, this is Saturday, this day right here, we moved up into it and failed, and tried it again, failed again, but we're looking for a reversal. I'm not looking to short Solana by any stretch of the imagination. I'm waiting to see how it consolidates so we can get through that 3161. A blow through right now would really take incredible volume pressure, and while it's capable of doing it, our volume aggregation tool here is showing that the sellers are stepping up their game and the buyers are stepping away a little bit. So we need to heed that little warning right there. So, all right, everyone, that's what I got for you today. A market with a great rally into the weekend, into some resistance levels. We are seeing signs of breaking through them, but I don't think we're quite there yet. I think it's going to take a little bit more time for us to actually get the job done. So stay safe out there. Hopefully we'll have some pretty good trades in the next coming weeks. We'll be looking for that. And you guys have a great day. We'll see you tomorrow on Altcoin Buzz Trading.